Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Writers Chat. We are so glad that you're here with us this week. My name is Johnny Alexander. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Melissa Stroh and Brandy Bro, and our very special guests for this morning, Ashley Bankhead and Bethany Jett. First, let me introduce Ashley. Ashley has been dreaming of being an author since she was a kid, but it wasn't until college when she took a creative writing course that she realized she wanted to write picture books. So her first picture book, This is a Ghost Story, illustrated by Enrico Lorenzi, I hope I pronounced that right, will be published with Doubleday Books for young readers in the summer of 2027. Ashley lives in Idaho with her husband, four kids, and her chocolate lab. When she is not writing, you can find her reading, baking, and traveling with her family. And she is joined today by her agent, Bethany Jett. Bethany is a literary agent as well as a multi-award winning author and a marketing strategist who earned top honors in her master's program, where she earned her MFA in communications, focusing on marketing and PR. After about 3 years of agenting, she transitioned to the McGregor and Ludicky Collaborative, where she's opening her list to adult fiction as well as nonfiction and select kidlit. She's a military spouse and military mama and was proud to be named the 2025 Military Spouse of the Year for the Florida National Guard. She and her college sweetheart husband have three sons and a not spoiled at all Pomeranian. So we are so glad to have Ashley and Bethany too jumping in with her to talk about picture books and Ashley's remarkable journey to getting her first picture book published. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Perfect. Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm excited to be here. Bethany asked me if I would be interested in talking about my journey to publication. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I have anything worth sharing. It's been a really long road and I wasn't sure what I could share. But the more I started going through this and doing that, I'm like, actually, I always find these fascinating,
Yeah,
just finding out what people did, how they did it, how they were able to, some of the things. So I'm going to kind of share my background and how my little road to publication. And then I'm going to give like about my top 10 takeaways of things that I felt
great.
like really helped me to get published. And so the things that were beneficial. So I'm going to go ahead
Wonderful.
and share my screen here. And I have never actually done this before. So I'm going to I'm not the
There you
most
go. Yay.
technology. Let's see how it goes. Okay, perfect.
That
All
is
right,
a
so everyone can see that.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of titled this The Art of Never Giving Up because that is kind of what this publishing journey is. You have to be very determined and you have to have kind of thick skin and you have to be able to just keep going even when it seems like you're going nowhere and nothing is happening and all you're receiving are no's. But you have to kind of dig deep and remember why you do it and why you love it. And so that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. Okay, so a little bit about me, which we kind of already said, but I have always loved to write. And I have been like even as a kid, I was basically like writing poems as gifts for people and things like that. And so I was just always writing. And I always thought it would be kind of cool to write a book one day, but it really wasn't until college that I decided, okay, maybe this is something I could do. One of our assignments was to write a picture book. We had to write in all the genres, and one was a picture book. And after I wrote it and we shared it with the class, the teacher asked me to stay after, and she told me, I really think that you should write picture books. And so that kind of was the boost I needed to decide this is what I'm going to do. So since then, I kind of haven't looked back, and I've just been pursuing this since that day in college. So I recently found this book in my garage and realized kind of how much this dates me. But as you can see the date, the 2005, this was my first purchase towards becoming a picture book author. So I went I don't know if it was Barnes and Noble or where I went, but I went and purchased this book, and this was like my first introduction to submitting to publishers. But back then, a lot of publishers weren't doing email; they were just doing they basically you were submitting by snail mail, and you had to everyone you had to have an SASE or like a self-addressed stamped envelope. And so it was a very slow process. You really didn't get responses. There was no query tracker. Most didn't use email. And so it was a very it was a very inconsistent when I very first started. Just I would kind of submit things here and there, but really there weren't a lot of responses, even with your SASE, not a lot of responses. But I continued to do that for years, just kind of submitting things here and there. But then in 2012, I decided that I was going to start taking myself seriously as a writer. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to put everything into it. And so I started by joining SCBWI and meeting different people, doing different events. I attended webinars. Anyone who would do a webinar or teach something, I joined. I went to local SCBWI conferences. At the time, there was one where I lived, and it was really nice to go to. I met lots of writers and lots of people. I read blogs. I don't know, there are still blogs and people still do them. I don't know if it's as common, but blogs was the thing when I first, in 2012, everybody had blogs, and I was constantly reading everyone's blogs and their guests. And I joined lots and lots of writing challenges, Story Storm 12 by 12. I think I have that one on there. I joined Rate Your Story, if anyone's heard of that, where they will read your stories and rate it on where it should be. Um, Participated Story Storm, joined 12 by 12, entered contests, lots and lots of contests. Any contest that I found that I could enter, I was entering contests to try to just to learn, but also if you won, sometimes you could win critiques or you could win an agent looking at your manuscript. So contests were very helpful. And then I went to the library multiple times a week, sometimes every day, and I read as many picture books as I could, because that's a huge part of writing, is reading in your genre. And so I would take all of my kids, and we were at that library every week, multiple times. And then in that same year, I was able to get my first personalized response. And I really feel digging down and doing all those things helped me to get that first personalized response. And it was an agent, and she told me she loved my manuscript, and if I was willing to revise the ending, that she would look at it again. And so I was so excited, because this was my first big breakthrough, this first thing. And of course, I was very naive and was thought this was my big break, and she was going to take my manuscript and going to love it. But I decided to I reached out to 3 different authors and paid for critiques by them, just to kind of get a better idea and help with the ending. And they were very helpful, and I feel like we made this ending that was amazing. And I sent it back to her, and when she got it, she said she loved what I did with the ending, but she kind of just had a full list, and she decided not to represent me with that story at that time. So I was ultimately very disappointed, because definitely my hopes were pretty high, and I wanted that one to work out. Um, but then it just made me more determined, because it was pretty exciting to have that first kind of breakthrough moment where someone saw my writing, liked it, and felt like it was good enough to take a second look at. So I was very excited to get that one. So it kind of made me more determined. Um, so then in 2014, I kind of got my next big breakthrough, and it was on Thanksgiving Day. I was sitting there, we were watching the Macy's Day Parade, and we were just kind of going through cooking food and different things. And I just happened to check my email, and there was an email from an editor saying that she got my pitch, because they didn't ask for the full manuscript. She just wanted a little pitch of what it was. And she said that she loved my pitch, and she wanted to see my full manuscript. And that was very exciting to see. It was a small publisher, but this editor loved my manuscript and wanted to see more. And so I sent it to her right away, because the manuscript was ready and it was ready to go. And she loved the manuscript. She thought it was amazing. We went through several rounds of edits, which was incredible to work with an editor. She was so knowledgeable and kind, and she helped me so much, and it was amazing. Just her notes and the things that she said, just I thought she was brilliant, and the things that she was able to pull out of my manuscript and make it better, and the suggestions she had. And surprisingly, most of the time they tell you, editors and things don't like art notes, but she loved art notes and she wanted more art notes. So that was definitely different than what I had done before, but every editor is different and agent is different. And so you have to kind of know what you're working with. But we went through several rounds. She sent it to her distribution house. They all said my manuscript was their favorite manuscript. And so it felt like we were progressing, and it seemed like it was going to be my big break, and I was going to get this book published. We'd been going for months, and it seemed like this was the big thing. And then ultimately the publisher decided that he didn't want to publish the book, even though we'd gone through all this, the distribution team, everything. He said that they had previously published a manuscript that also had like a younger sibling, kind of a sibling relationship, and it hadn't sold as well. So he was hesitant to do another one, even though mine was completely different and not the same. He was hesitant to do it. So it kind of put the brakes on everything. And she was the nicest editor, and she kept in touch with me. And she would always get back to me and told me that she would keep it on the back burner and would just show it to the publisher every once in a while because she really wanted to publish this book. But ultimately, it kind of just went to a standstill and nothing ever happened. And I was pretty crushed and disappointed that nothing ever came from that. But in all, now looking back, I can see what a good experience it was learning from this editor. But at the time, it was very disappointing. So then I started entering all the contests. And one of the ones that I entered was in 2019, and it was Writing with the Stars. And this is no longer a contest that they do, but they would have different um, authors be willing to mentor someone who hasn't been published before. And they had a whole list of authors. You were allowed to submit to about 3 authors, but Tammy Sauer was one of my favorite authors, and I knew that she was the only one I really wanted to work with, so I only submitted to her. And then I submitted. They said, "Oh, we got your submission and everything." And then they got back to me, I don't know, maybe a few weeks later, and they said, "Tammy is deciding between yours and a few other people. Please send a few more manuscripts, and then she's gonna make a decision." And then a few weeks later after that, I found out that I had won, that she had picked me. And Tammy told me that she picked me out of over 170 manuscripts, and that she was really excited to work with me. And it was an incredible experience. Tammy is extremely knowledgeable and kind, and she was more than willing to share all of her knowledge with me. And we went through and we polished up about 3 of my manuscripts. She gave me ideas on what I should do. She suggested agents that I should do, but overall, it was just such a great experience. I learned so much. Um, but I did go into that contest. I mean, going into contests is intimidating because there's lots of people entering, and you think, oh, I don't know, like, why would they pick me? But why not? Why couldn't you be the one to be picked? And so entering contests can be so good. And then Rate Your Story, which is something that is still going on today. They had a contest at the time. And so in 2020, I won 3rd place for my manuscript that I sent into them. And that was really encouraging to me because to be able to be picked out of many manuscripts that they have, that was just encouraging and made me feel like, okay, maybe I'm on the right track. I'm moving in that direction. And so contests are very important. So going on from there, I continued to get more personalized rejections, and sometimes they were very encouraging. I got lots of rejections, a lot of them just very standard, and you didn't know if they liked anything about it. But sometimes I would get personalized rejections that were very encouraging. One told me that, "I find your writing engaging, though. So if you have any other stories you think would be a good fit, I'm happy to take a look." And so that was amazing to see that someone wanted to see more of my work. And then Person said, "It is no wonder Tammy Sauer selected you as her mentee. You are a clever, witty writer." And so on the hard days, I would sometimes reread these kind things that people had told me because when you get a lot of no's or rejections, or you feel like you're not getting anywhere, it's nice to have to remember those things like, okay, I'm a good writer. I can do this. I've just got to keep going. Um, and so then in 2022, my local SCBWI, and I think a lot do it, they did the Critique-a-Palooza. And basically, they have a list of agents and editors that you can choose, and then you pay for like a critique from them. And it's usually priced really well. I feel like, especially if you're a member, it's priced pretty well, and you can look through the list ahead of time and be like, oh, maybe I could submit to this editor or this agent. And so I went through there and I saw an editor that that said she's really into ghost stories. And so I kind of researched her. I like rewatched videos and podcasts that she had done, and I just really felt like my story could be a good fit for her. So I signed up, paid for the critique, and sent off my manuscript. I personalized it, saying that I'd seen she liked ghost stories and that and those things, and so that it was very personalized and she knew about it. And I think it was like 2 months later, I got the critique or something. It was definitely a long bit, but when I finally opened the email, in there, the editor told me, she said that she didn't want to actually give me a critique on this manuscript because she said it was in such good shape. She felt like if she gave me a critique, it might actually hurt the manuscript, and that she told me that this manuscript she felt was ready to be published, that it needed to be moved into publishing space. Um, but she said she noticed that I wasn't represented by an agent, and she went on to basically sell me on how important it is to get an agent, and that no one will fight for you more. No one will fight for your manuscript more. No one will support you more than having an agent. And then she gave me a suggestion of two different agents, and told me to resubmit to her when I found an agent. And so this was very exciting because most of the time when someone critiques your manuscript, I feel like agents, editors, friends, critique partners, any of that, they're always kind of looking for what could be wrong or find something that's wrong so that you kind of feel like you're getting your money's worth, I guess. Um, so I always have been really grateful to this editor for taking the time and not worrying about, oh, I have to find something wrong, so that she feels like this is a good critique. She felt like it was more important to tell me how good my manuscript was and that it should be published. And her encouragement was everything because it was exactly what I needed to hear. And as a picture book writer, you generally have a lot of picture books. And so sometimes I would submit one, and if I wasn't getting much, then I'd submit another, and then I might try a different one. So after she gave me that critique, I knew that that was the manuscript I need to send at that time. Like I was like, this is the manuscript I need to do. This is what I need to go with. And so I've always been extremely grateful to her for taking the time to encourage me, to tell me what I should do, and to not feel like she had to give me a critique, because if she had done that, I might not have really known that this is the manuscript I should go forth with and that it was ready, and it kind of gave me the confidence to move forward. Um, so then with finding my agent, I did submit to the two agents that she suggested, and they both told me that they would be willing to look at my manuscript, but right away they basically said, our picture book lists are full, so don't get your hopes up. Like we're willing to look at it, but our picture book lists are full. And so I did send it to them, and they both got back to me and told me that they did love it. They loved my manuscript and everything, but they were just too full and needed to focus on their other ones. But both of them were very encouraging and told me to continue submitting it because it was very good and I should do that. And so I kind of went right back into researching agents, and I noticed that there was a new agent coming who was going to be opening soon to picture book manuscripts, and that was Bethany, of course. And so I researched her. I followed all the things that she was tweeting at the time and the different things that she was doing, and really felt like we could be a good fit and that we'd be a good match. And so I sent, the second she opened, I sent to her through Query Tracker, and she came back to me after a bit and asked for more manuscripts. And so I think I sent her 8 more manuscripts. And then she came back and wanted to set up a call, and very exciting because no one had ever wanted to set up a call before. So that was very exciting and nerve-wracking. And when Bethany and I talked on the phone, it was just, she was so easy to talk to and so enthusiastic about my work. And I just was so excited. And I have loved working with her ever since. And getting to sign with her has been just amazing. And so we worked together for just under a year before we got that first yes from a publisher. And so this was kind of my big break, was with Penguin Random House Doubleday, and Frances Gilbert liked my manuscript and wanted to publish it. And it was so excited that day when Bethany told me to call her. The funny part is she had messaged me, I think a couple days before, just saying basically an editor kind of liked my manuscript and wanted to know if there was like if where else it was kind of being submitted to and things. And she Bethany told me, she's like, you know, this may not turn into anything, but we got to celebrate all the good wins, you know, that even the small wins are really good. And so I was like, well, you never know, maybe she'll like it. And then 2 days later, she texted me and said, call me. And I knew it had to be about that. And that was the most exciting thing, because I'd been working for 20 years to get this picture, to get a picture book published, and to finally get that yes was so exciting, and it made everything that I had done feel very worth it, and very awesome. And they told me at the time, this was in May. So Bethany and I went on submission in June of 2023, and then in May of 2024. So just under a year, we got that first yes. But now it's not coming out till 2027 because they had a few books that it might have been competing with. And they asked if I would be willing to wait to go to in 2027 instead of the 2026. And I said, of course. I mean, I've been waiting all this time anyway. And so it's much easier to wait when you know something good is coming. And so even though it was not very easy, and I have to say that looking back now that I have the publishing thing, it's a lot easier to look back and be like, oh, I can see how this and this and this helped me, and all the progression, and it was all worth it. But definitely when you're in the thick of waiting and trying, it is very discouraging and very, very hard. And so that's kind of my background of how I got to getting my first book publishing deal. And so I thought it might be good to talk about my top 10. And so these are the things that I felt like helped me the most. And so if anyone wants to join in as we talk about these or anything, or any questions, because I'm just going to kind of go through my top 10, and there's definitely more than 10. But
Ashley, yeah, Ashley, we do want to ask you a few questions before
yes,
you go on with the top 10. So a few people might not know what, oh my gosh, I just lost SCBWI. Did I get that right?
yes, yes.
What that stands for and why it's so important for children authors to join that group.
So Bethany might be able to explain this one a little bit
Okay.
better as an agent, like why you feel like definitely like your clients to be
Okay.
part
Yeah,
of.
I can jump in. So nobody has to join anything. I
Yeah.
just want to put that out there. It's fine if you're not. I do like to see it in my query, like even with some of the contests and groups that Ashley was part of, when I see those types of things come usually at the bottom of the query in the bio, I know I'm going to see probably a pretty polished manuscript that has gone through critique, that's gone through revisions. It's not a first draft. It's kind of my expectation when I see those types of things. So I'm a member of SCBWI, and they just had their summer conference, which I completely missed and have to go watch the replays. But even as an agent focusing on picture books, especially in the kidlit market, I always want to know what's going on because the market changes and can change pretty quickly, I think. And so I never want my clients to be like, oh, I was at this big workshop at this industry recognized thing and learned this, and then I'm catching up. So I try to stay, on pace with them, because as they're learning too. But yeah, there's a lot of really great information there. So that'd be my plug.
And that stands for society, and I'm going to let you finish that. Society,
Idea of book writers and illustrators,
yeah, yeah, for children, Society for Children's Book Writers and
which is
Illustrators.
board book through YA really, because
Um,
Okay.
children covers that. But there's a lot of, I'm more invested on the picture book side.
Yeah, yeah. And then a few people might not know what Rate Your Story is and Story Storm, I think you mentioned.
yes.
So could you talk a little about those two
Yes.
things?
So, rate your story. You can just go to, I think it's rateyourstory.com, but you could just Google it. And it is just, I think an author started it or an agent started. I'm not sure, but it has actually changed ownership over time. But basically, you can join for like a price. And again, you don't have to join these things. I just felt like they were beneficial to me because it keeps me accountable and it makes me try new things and puts myself out there. But you can join as a member, and then each month, or I'm not sure how they do it anymore, but you were allowed to submit a manuscript, and then they have judges, and you don't know who they are, but they're authors. They're just people who want to volunteer and do this, and they read your manuscript and then they rate it on like a scale, and then they give you a little bit of why they rated it that way. So you might send a manuscript, and if it's like at a 1, then you're like ready to submit that manuscript and it's ready to be published. And if you get like a 2, you're like, they might give you a few encouragements to be like, this is kind of right. But you might get like a 7 and they're like, this is not ready to go, you have a lot of work to do, and so you need to do that. And so I found it very helpful, and I could submit a new manuscript every month and just get, even if it's just one person's opinion, it's nice to get that one person's opinion. And you don't have to take everything that they tell you. You might be like, I don't really agree with what they're saying. I actually think this is good. But it gives you kind of like, okay, so someone who's never seen this before, this is their opinion of my book. And so then it helps you to kind of look at your manuscript with new eyes and be like, okay, what can I do with that? So that was that one. And that is like a paid thing. So the great part in the writing world is you don't have to pay for anything. You can there's so much information and things you can do for free that you can do. And so I kind of did a balance of both. And sometimes what I would do is I'd be like, okay, for my birthday, I don't actually want gifts. I want a membership to Rate Your Story, or I want to do this because it can get expensive if you're constantly doing things. And when I would do the picture book Critique-a-Palooza, like that would be like my birthday gift, is like, I want to just purchase a critique for my birthday. I don't want a gift. I don't want, and so you can find ways, like that's kind of how I always did it. Because when I first started doing this, we were in school, and so I didn't have money for a lot of the extra things. And so there's definitely different ways you can do this. And then Story Storm is actually free. It's Tara Lazar, the author, and she does it every year in January. And it's like Picture Book Idea Month. It started out as she's changed it to Story Storm, but the idea is that she has guests on the blog that teach you about picture books or writing in general each day for the entire month of January. And then you can if you comment on it, you might win a prize at the end, which could be a critique, it could be a book from an author or different things. And the idea is that every day you come up with an idea. So by the end of the 30 days, you have 30 ideas of
Yeah.
picture books that you can, a list that you can do. And it's just a great challenge because these are things you can do on your own, but it's fun to read the posts. And sometimes when I would just read the post, I would come up with a new idea. I'd be like, oh, I could totally write a book like that. And I've actually won critiques on there before. I've run a critique from an editor. I've won from an agent. I won like an Ask Everyone. I've won books because I've been doing it for years. I do it every year, and it's just super fun. And you meet other people and you can comment with people, and it's just really fun. And it's free, like it doesn't cost anything, and it just gets you in that headspace of writing books and getting ideas. And one thing I want to say is that the writing community is amazing. They are just absolutely amazing. People are so willing to share ideas, to share knowledge, to help you out, to do things. And I just think the writing community is absolutely amazing. And so, join these things and do that. You'll make friends and different people, but people are really willing. I just think they're just the nicest people. People love to help and share and do these things. So
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, then let's also talk about, well, first I'll go to Pam's comment. She said she's a member of ACFW Kidlit, and just so we do have this on the recording, and Right to Ignite. And Bethany, just want to touch on those just for a minute.
Well, in the chat, I just said that I'm not super familiar with Right to Ignite, but the limited interaction I've had with the ACFW, which is American Christian Fiction Writers Kids Lit, has been positive.
Okay. Okay. So that's great. And then art notes. Some people weren't that familiar with art notes either, and I'm not sure I am either since I don't write picture books. So um, I don't
Ashley,
know what you want to say about that, but it's like go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Art,
when
what
it comes
are
to
art notes?
Yes, when it comes to picture books, oftentimes you're writing a picture book and you may be saying one thing, but something the opposite might be happening, what's actually happening. And so you would have an art note like maybe you're saying the boy is being so good, but in actuality, he's like not like he's doing something opposite that his mom asked him or something. And so someone reading the story would never know what the kid was doing. And so you would have an art note so that the reader is like, oh, I see. And then the rest of the story makes sense. But art notes can be controversial. Some people love them, some don't. And so they always say if you're going to do an art note, it needs to be absolutely essential. Like you cannot understand the story unless it's in there. And so I have a mixture with some of my stories. There's like a few stories where it's like you really don't understand the story unless you know that one little thing. But you never want to use art notes to be like, oh, his shirt is green, or this is what the boy looks like, because that's not essential to the story and to reading the story. And that's something the illustrator can choose. And you don't ever want to dictate what the illustrator does because they're so talented at their job and you do your job. And so, but it can be controversial. And so I try to not use them as much as I can. But when I did work with that one editor, she would be like, I would have things that were in there that really could be anything, but she's like, well, what are you thinking? What do you think? She's like, add art notes. Like, what do you think is happening here? What do you think is happening here? And so that was kind of a different experience. And so that was kind of like, oh, she wants art notes, but for the most part, I would say try to use none, or if they're absolutely essential, then to put them in. And I don't think I had any, Bethany, right? In the ghost story. I don't think I had any in that one.
No, I don't think so. I think you have
Mhm.
the ghost and the narrator speaking,
Yes,
and that
going
was
back and forth.
enough. Yeah.
Yes, so there's no art notes in that one. So if you cannot have any, I think that's probably best, but sometimes there is where you cannot understand the story without it, and that would be when you would include one. And usually it's just like in brackets and you just say art, and then you just would have your little thing in as short, as simple as you can.
All right. Well, that's great. I think that's all the questions. If not, we will get to them afterwards. So let's go ahead and talk about your top
Okay.
10.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to first, and this one is reading. And it's pretty obvious and you hear about it all the time, but you need to read so much in your genre. And with picture books, it's easier to do that because they're short and things. And so very common for me to bring all my kids with me. We'd sit on the floor and we would just read and read picture books over and over. And we'd take a ton home. We would do it, but I would read as much as I could. And it's also really important to read new books that are coming out, because sometimes I feel like even when I first started, I was just reading like the books my mom had given me, like from when I was a kid, but that's not what's being published now, and trends change and things change. So you want to read the new picture books that are coming out, see what publishers are publishing and doing that. The other important part is that with picture books and most books, you're going to have to do comp titles. And that's where you are saying like, this is where my book fits in the market. Like it's similar to this book and this book, or it has the humor of this book and the writing of this book, or whatever you want to comp it. But if you're not reading often, you will have no clue comp titles. And so it just really helps you. Anytime I write a manuscript, I can already start thinking about like, oh, this is like, it could fit with these kind of books or this kind of book. And that's just because I'm reading so often. I know a lot of the books that are out there, and it's easier to do comp titles because comp titles can be intimidating. But if you're reading a lot, you definitely start getting a feel of where your book could go. And even then, sometimes I have to do a lot of research because I'm like, I can't think of a book to fit this one. Yes, so reading's very important and it will benefit you a lot. And the more you read, the better you become as a writer. Like you will just become a better writer. And page turns are really important in picture books, like knowing where to turn pages. And if you read books a lot, you just get a better feel for where page turns will be, and where to put like just like where to end so that people want to turn to the next page. And so it's very, just reading a lot is just so helpful in becoming a writer. The next one was webinars. We did talk about this quite a bit, but I think they're very, very helpful. And the great part about webinars is they don't have to be expensive. I have learned so much from like a $20 webinar where it's like $20 and you get an hour of learning from an editor or an agent or an author. And I've learned so much. I'll just be like taking notes the entire time. And we already talked about this, but the writing community is so helpful. And these webinars are kind of a chance for agents or editors to kind of share their knowledge with you. And it's a great opportunity. And sometimes they can be kind of expensive. So you just have to decide what works best for you. But like I said, sometimes I'll see a webinar come up and it'll be $20 and it is so beneficial. And I just am so glad to join, but it is so nice to learn from others. And webinars are a great way to learn from others because we all live in different places and we are different places, but you can learn from someone from New York, or you can learn from someone from Idaho. That's where I'm from right now. And so you can learn from people that you can't meet otherwise. And you can gain this knowledge from people because this writing community is awesome. Contests. So I talked a little bit about this, but contests are an awesome thing to do. A lot of times they're free. They don't even cost anything. I know that on X and Twitter, they have some of those, or they have pitch contests or different things. Some of the contests I entered, like I'm thinking the Rate Your Story one. I don't know if they still do a contest, but for a while they did one every year, and you just submitted a manuscript, and they did accept it for, it wasn't just picture books, like, so the picture book, then they had middle grade, and I think they had young adult, and they might, I can't remember all that they had, but there were just different rules for each genre that you submitted, and then they had winners for each genre. And it was just great it made you it makes you polish up your manuscript. It makes you think about it. It helps you to do query letters. And so contests are great. They kind of challenge you. And so I was always glad to enter contests. I felt like it challenged me to either learn how to do a pitch, or it taught me how to do a cover letter, or just different things. And some of them you get feedback from, some you don't, but I think that they can be really great. And when I did the Writing with the Stars, I think I entered like one of the last days before it was even to go, because in my mind, I was like, I will never win this. Like, why would she pick me? Because it seems daunting, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try. I have the time. I'm just going to enter it. And I'm so glad I did, because it completely, I mean, I was chosen and it completely changed it for me. I was able to learn from like a top author. And so it was incredible. So, someone has to get picked, and why not you? So I think that is worth trying. Okay, join a critique group. I mean, you hear this all the time about joining critique group. Critique groups can be hit and miss. I've tried to join some different ones, and sometimes you might feel intimidated. Maybe they're too advanced for what you're doing, or sometimes maybe some people are at the very beginning of their writing journey, and so sometimes that might not be the best fit for you. So sometimes it takes a while to find people that are just a good fit, that they're challenging you and helping you. And actually, crazy thing, one of my neighbors, she moved in to our neighborhood, and she found out I was a writer, and she's like, I write too. And we've become like such good friends, and we can walk to each other's houses, and we talk all the time. And she has a book that's coming out soon, and so it's been really fun talking about our publishing processes and everything. And so even if, like, the critique groups are great because they read your manuscript, they give you critiques, but also just having friends to talk to in this process, it's a lonely, it can be a pretty lonely process and very discouraging process. So you want to find people that you connect with, and that, you can talk about the highs and the lows and the disappointments and they celebrate your little wins. Not everyone understands what a personalized rejection is. They don't understand how exciting that can be. People, that they took the time to tell you that your manuscript was good. They're not going to take it on, but it was good. Most people are like, what? A personalized rejection? They still told you no. And it's like, no, this is good. So it's good to find those people. And so I highly recommend joining a critique group. It doesn't have to be big. You don't even have to submit every month. Just find people that can look at your manuscripts and help you with them, but also people to talk with about this process. The other one is pagination. Bethany and I have talked about this one. And probably only for picture books. I mean, I don't know. I don't write other genres, but this is definitely a picture book thing, is that when you're writing a picture book, I used to, when I first started, it would just be written out. And like I could see where the page turns would be, but no one else would necessarily know. And then so Bethany was like, I think you need to paginate these. And so I was a little intimidated because I was like, oh, I've never submitted one with pagination. And so basically what it is you're saying here's where like the copyright and this will be, so we're going to start on this page. And then you'll say, this is what's going to be on these 2 pages. And then you'll be like, page 6 to 7 is this, page 7 to 8 is this. And you go through and you show the agent or editor exactly where your page turns are going to be. And it goes clear to 28 to 29 because the rest will be the end papers. And so when you do this, the editor can look at it and be like, okay, this is a full picture book. I can see exactly where the page turns are going to be and what they're going to be. And I think that is so important because it kind of shows the editor agent, first of all, that you kind of know what you're doing, but also they can see how the book will fit into a 32-page book. Because I have in the past, I just don't know if pagination was like when I first started, definitely no one wrote with pagination. In fact, some people were like, oh, you should. And some people said, maybe you shouldn't. But I definitely think that you should. And I think that it helps because I've even had an editor get back to me in a previous one and they were like, I don't know if this fits in 32 pages. And so definitely being able to show them that fits into the 32-page book is very helpful, even if they do make adjustments, because they may make adjustments. Frances made some adjustments with mine as well. At first, we were going to do something on the end papers, and then we moved it so it was in the book. And so there will always be adjustments, but if they can just see that it fits, I think it will set your manuscript apart. Do you agree with that, Bethany?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Like, and honestly, that is like, I read picture books a lot when I'm getting them in queries, but when they're paginated, it is this level of like, it just takes my thought about what I'm reading to the next level versus having everything on one document. And I'm trying to figure out where, I mean, the page turn is very important.
It really is. Well, and it can actually, because I write humorous picture books, and so it can actually up the humor as well, is because then you're like, oh, then it brings that pause before the punchline or the thing that makes it even funnier. And so it actually will help that agent or editor to see the humor or what you're trying to portray. So, but it can be intimidating because when I first did it, I was like, oh, I don't know where these, I'm not sure. Because you're like, should I put this there? So you kind of play with it. And like, I'm not even perfect at it now. Like sometimes I will stare at that screen forever being like, should that line be in this one or this one? Because it's not always cut and dry. I do have manuscripts where I'm like, this is an easy one. Like, this is so easy. I know exactly. But there are some where you're like, oh, I'm not sure. So it can take time.
I have
Okay.
a question about that too then.
Yes.
So are you going like page 1, 2, and then the text, I guess, and then page 3,
Yes.
4, the text?
Yeah, so it actually kind of looks a little bit boring. Like you'll have in brackets, and picture books don't start on 1 and 2 because they
Oh,
have
okay.
end
Right.
papers and that. So I usually start mine on 6 to 7, which
Okay.
seems crazy, but it starts on like 6 to 7,
Wow.
and I just have it in brackets, and then you just have the writing underneath, and then you have, then you have so you have 6 to 7, then you have 8 to
Yeah.
9, and so you just kind of it just goes through and it just has everything. But as an agent or editor, they can see it and they can start envisioning where those page turns will be. And that first editor that told me that my picture book was publishable and was ready to go, I did not have page turns in there because I wasn't at that time. I wasn't sure when I submit a manuscript critique if they would want page turns, so I didn't have them in there. But she even told me, she was like, I can see where all these page turns are. And she's like, but she even said, like, you should go ahead and like, she's like, I can see where they're at, but like, you could go ahead and put them in page turns. And so I think that in the past, it was kind of like iffy. Like some people said, oh, turn them with page turns. And other people said, I never submit my manuscript with page turns. But now I definitely think you should submit. I think
Yeah.
they appreciate and love the page turns and the pagination.
All right.
So
Well, thank you.
but it is a little tricky. You kind of have to work with it, and reading a lot will help you get better at those too. So read. Okay, so my next one was to attend and participate in the SCBWI events. These were huge for me. Not just, there used to be a conference that was here in Boise, and it would be it was a 1 day conference, and they brought in editors and agents, and it was amazing. I loved going there, and I felt like I learned so much, and I gained a lot of writing friends. They don't do it here anymore, which I'm really disappointed with because I loved it. But attending those things, and again, I get a lot of these things can be expensive, or they can be, you can't do everything because there's definitely so much you could do, but it does get expensive. But even the Critique-a-Palooza, I don't know what it still is, but at the time I've done it for years. So I have done the Critique-a-Palooza for years. I did it every single year. And basically it was close to around my birthday. So every time for my birthday, I would, like, my mom would be like, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, I want a critique. And so like, my family is very supportive, and they love that I love to do this. And so that's what I would do for like birthday gifts and things. So sometimes they would let me do, I think at one point they let me do like 3 critiques. I bought all 3. And then you just have to submit to each person. And then that year, I think I might have done 2 or something, but no one has ever done a critique like that before. That is very definitely unique. Most of the time, they're going to tell you what they think is working, what's not working, give you some suggestions. Sometimes they'll ask to relook at something. I think that's less common as well. But for an editor to come and basically tell me, this is ready to go, I don't want to critique this, like, you need to submit it, that's definitely more rare. But I am still really grateful that she did that, because it gave me the encouragement I needed to be like, okay, this is the manuscript I need to submit, and I need to get an agent. And so they can be very helpful. But in the past, when I would get one, they have like a certain form. So they'll tell you what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and then what you can do to improve it or do that. And those are super helpful because they do agents and editors. So you're sometimes, if you're getting an editor, you can see, what does an editor think about my manuscript? Someone who's in the industry and sees it often, what do they think about it? And so I think these are very beneficial. I think that you can learn a lot from critiques and things. And so, and generally you're getting a lot of critiques from like your peers or other writers. So to get one from an agent or an editor, I think can be really beneficial, as just to even grow as a writer. And so I say, if you do join SCBWI, look at the local, what's happening locally for you, because there's a lot of great things you can do. And it's a way to join critique groups too, because a lot of times they'll announce critique groups or say, hey, we're looking for a new member. So it's another way to kind of find more writers in your area. Okay, this is something I want to talk about, was to look for agents who are open or actively seeking new clients. Because when you are researching agents, you will see like very veteran agents who have been doing it forever, and then you have newer agents, and you have some that are just in between. Even though that editor had suggested a couple agents, they definitely weren't really open to more picture book authors. They kind of said their lists were full. And so I think that looking, like, when you're doing your research, look for new agents or actively things, because a lot of times with the more established agents, sometimes you don't even get a response from them. And so it can be, I think that it's really beneficial to look for people who are actively seeking or newer agents, because they're eager and excited, just like you are, to find these. And I didn't have much luck with like more established agents. Now with picture books, I feel like it's hard, especially if you only write picture books. There's not a ton of agents to submit to. So you definitely try whatever you feel will be a good fit and what will work for you. But it was beneficial. Like I said, I saw Bethany, that she was opening up. I researched everything about her and felt like we'd be a good fit. But it was nice to see someone who was actively looking. So she was a newer agent and she was actively looking. And so you tend to get more responses from them, and and they're looking for something. Whereas sometimes the newer agents, they're like, I'm not really looking for anything. And so this was kind of, I think, an important thing to look for, is to like be aware of new agents coming out, and or agents that are opening up, because you're going to have, they're definitely looking at it from a different perspective than someone who's not really looking for anything new. So, and maybe Bethany has some thoughts on that as well. Maybe no.
No, I think that's good. It's hard when you're new coming in and you don't have a sales history yet, because there's nothing to say like, I don't know if I can sell in this space. So like you're really trusting each other with that, especially as a debut, especially as a text-only picture book author, because a lot of agents who rep picture book, they're only looking for the author illustrator. So like debut text only is like the most difficult in an already difficult space. So for Ashley to have this book with Doubleday was just, I mean, Penguin, it was wonderful. Like I don't know, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm so grateful to you because you were amazing. And we kind of both went into this. I'd never had an agent before, and she was new to agenting, but working with Bethany was incredible. She's so warm and welcome and kind. And I just always felt like I was in good hands. Like she did such a good job and she would, I just fully trust her. And so I just think that's an important part of having an agent too, is that you want to be able to just like trust them. Like I'm going to do the writing. She's got this underhand, and together we make a good team. And so she did amazing. She submitted to the right people, and a lot of submitting. Everyone tells you, but it's just kind of being in the right place at the right time. Like it can be an extremely well written book, so well written, and it may still not get published, and there can be a huge reasons why, just a huge list of reasons why. And it can be that they're full, or they're this. I mean, my book got pushed out to 2027 because they already had some competing ghost books. And so you just never know. It might come across their desk and it might be an amazing manuscript, but there just doesn't fit their list or different things. And so sometimes it's hitting it at the right time. And I always felt like Bethany definitely hit it at the right time, because if she had submitted it while they were receiving all these ghost stories, it might not have been, but it was at the right time that they were like, yeah, we're going to take on another one, but for this year. So I was very grateful to Bethany. But
One
it's
more
been amazing.
question about agents. What is the best way to research agents? Twitter, Google? Bethany, do you want to take that one?
I'll let Ashley jump in because she's done
Okay.
it. I met someone at a conference and then I can follow up if needed.
Okay.
Okay.
So one of them, this is my next one, is MSWL, and that's Manuscript Wish
There we go.
List. And this one was very helpful to me. It's not always super active, like you're not always going to see things all the time, but if you're checking it often, a lot of agents will say, hey, I'm looking for this, or I had a thought, I'd love a book like this. So it's kind of random. You don't always know when they're going to come up, but I felt like that was very helpful. And a lot of agents have like even a profile on there that you can go through and see what they're looking for or what they want. And so I felt like that was very helpful. Also, a lot of times they'll hashtag the MSWL, but being on X is helpful as well, because sometimes if you start following them, they will sometimes just say things like, oh, I've been looking for a book like this, or I love these kind of books. I love humor. And so you can kind of get a better idea. But I did think MSWL was very helpful in researching. And then some agents or editors, they will also have podcasts that you can listen to, and that can be helpful. Sometimes they've done an old webinar that you can watch, or so sometimes I just Google them and I just start seeing what pops up, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting, or oh, look, they taught at some conference, but the bio is still there, and in the bio was like very helpful information. So sometimes just Googling them can be pretty helpful.
Yep. I want to just, what's the word? Affirm again the hashtag MSWL, like Ashley said. I literally have an agent friend on there who I saw her tweet today, but she posted yesterday. She said, I'm opening to these select categories. And then she listed like 3. And then she's like, and one more. And so anyone following her, if they've got something that fits within that, it's like, okay, I can go. She's looking for this right now. It is the most real time way if an agent's using that hashtag to get something in when they're wanting it, because it's hot for them.
Yes. Well, and it also helps too if they say they're not looking for that right now. So you're not submitting it to them when they don't want it, because that's an automatic no. Is that if they're saying like, oh, I'm full to picture books, I don't want to see them right now. So then you just wait till maybe they are open. You have a much better chance if they're actively looking for it than if they're not. And so it kind of helps you to be aware, because just submitting to people who are not open or don't want it, it's an automatic no. And so you kind of almost like lost that chance. So to wait till they are open and excited about that. Perfect. Okay, so yes, and so I know that it can also be exhausting. The research is exhausting. It can take up so much time, but it is worth it because you are submitting your best chance basically. So if you're not researching it, you might be like missing out on something or do that. And like I said, when I saw Bethany was opening, I just researched everything I could, tried to cater. I have a lot of stories. So I tried to cater what I sent her based off of what she said she was looking for, because that gives you your best chance. You know, if you have lyrical stories and humor, but they say they love humor, you don't want to send them your lyrical stories if that's not something they're very excited about. And maybe down the road, you could submit a lyrical story if they like it. But if they're actively looking for humor, you want to send your humorous manuscripts. Or if they're actively looking for a nonfiction, you don't want to send fiction to someone who's looking for nonfiction. And so it just gives you a much better chance if you have researched and done that. Okay, so my next one is to write a lot. And so this kind of seems like, oh, I know this, but it needs to be a lot, not even just to become a better writer, but also I think they always tell you with picture books, you should have like 3 polished picture books. But I know when I submitted to Bethany, I have way more than that. I've been writing 20 years. We've got a lot of manuscripts, but when I submitted to Bethany and she came back and wanted to see more, she told me, send me all that you've got. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so definitely having more than just like 3 was really nice. I think I sent you 8 more. And so that's a lot of manuscripts. And I could have sent her more, but I was like, I don't want to overwhelm her. so I think I sent her 8 more manuscripts just to give her an idea of my writing and my style and what I could do. And to give her a little variety that not all of them are the same or they're not all. And so I think having more is really good. And then also sometimes Bethany and I've had the experience where an editor wanted to see more of my manuscripts. And so I think I sent her 8 as well. And so being able to give a variety, I think is really important. So the more you can write will make you a better writer. But also I think it's beneficial when an agent or an editor is requesting something to be able to show them more than just like, well, you've seen this one and I have 2 more. It's not very many, I feel like. And so I think writing a lot, writing new manuscripts, getting them critiqued, and make sure they're well polished too. Like get them critiqued by your critique group, get author critiques, get whatever you can do to get them as polished as possible. And also, I think critiques are amazing and they're very beneficial, but the best person to polish your manuscript is you, because you are the one that's reading this a million times. People can give you ideas and they're helpful and you can see where maybe problems are, but you have to like sit in that chair and read that manuscript and over again until it's polished, because no one knows your manuscript like you. And so the most important person to critique your manuscript is you. And if you are not having fun reading that manuscript that many times, then no editor is going to have fun reading it that many times. So you've got to be able to have that manuscript where you're like, this is fun. I can do this. I can read it and I can polish it. So those are very important. And then my number 10 is to not give up. Obviously, that's what we've been talking about this entire time. It is a very discouraging process. I've had many moments where I was like, I have been doing this for years. I have nothing to show for it. Even though I had little steps, it just felt like I didn't have anything to show for it. And my family's very supportive. My kids, my husband, like I would tell my husband, I'm like, maybe I just shouldn't do this anymore. I'm like, I do love to write, but I'm like, it just feels like I've spent so much time and effort and there's just nothing. Like it just feels like there's nothing. And he would be like, nope, you love it. You can't give up. You love it. And usually by then I'd get like a new idea and I just had to write that new idea. And so I feel like it's just in me and it's something I just am driven and meant to do. And I can't get enough of it. I just love it so much. So even when it's discouraging, keep going, keep doing it, get better, challenge yourself for new things, enter a new contest, join a new critique group, try, just do all the things, go to the Barnes and Noble and just sit in the section and just look through all the new books and just remember why you love it. And just don't give up, because if I'd given up, I wouldn't have my book deal today. So you could be year 5 or you could be year 20 like me, or who knows. So
So good.
Ashley, thank you so, so much. Is that the last slide? Do you
that
have
was
any?
my last slide. So
Okay. Well, if you can stop screen share if you want to,
yeah.
then thank you, thank you, thank you. We are kind of at the top of the hour, so I'm going to turn it over to Brandy real quick to tell us about next week. Oh, you're muted, sweetie.
Got it now.
Yep.
We are doing another Come Write With Us next week. It's a popular recurring series that we have. And we've had a lot of requests for music to come back into the mix. So we will do something with music and writing to music. We usually do a couple of writing times and then we share for those that feel comfortable sharing. And we always have a good time with it. So if you're around, come join us live. We would love to have you.
Yes, and Ashley, again, just thank you. This was so wonderful, and I am a little amused by people that kept thinking PB peanut butter instead of picture books, but you know, so glad this was wonderful information. Thank you so much, Bethany. Thank you
Thank you
too
for
for
having
being.
me. I loved it. Thank you for having me.
And congrats to you. I mean, this is a
Thank you.
wonderful, wonderful thing. And 2027 will be here before you know
I
it.
know it really
And by
will.
then you may have who knows how many more contracts in the works. So
Well,
that'd
hopefully.
be great. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yes.
So, if you're here watching the replay, we do invite you to join us in person any Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central. And I'm actually at 9 o'clock Mountain Time this time, and it was a little bit hard getting up this early. So kudos to Melissa, who does it every single week to be here at 9. We also invite you to join our Facebook group at Writers Chat Members, easy to find. And those of you who are here, stick around for the after party. Bye, everybody.